Hello everyone, this is Erin and I'm going to read a letter tonight from Schaeffer Cox. It was forwarded to me from Angela. It's dated May 24th, 2016. When I call these thugs Nazis, I actually literally mean it. At the end of World War II, the Nazis saw that they were defeated. The U.S. was coming from the west and Russia was coming from the east. Hitler and his friends were stuck in the middle in Berlin. So they sent this message to the U.S. They said, okay, look, we're beat. That's obvious. But it's going to take so much energy for you to finish us off that you will be left weak for the Russians, who will then finish you off and control the post-war reconstruction. So here's our offer. We'll hand over all our top secret and they'll go to work for you in New Mexico. We'll also hand over all our top secret police and they'll go to work for you to start the CIA in Langley, Virginia. We also won't fight you all when you roll in to take over Berlin. This way, America can be the big dog in the post-war world. But here's the catch. You have to forgive all our war crimes. Let our top brass, including Hitler and his girlfriend Eva, to go to South America. Let us keep all the loot we stole and leave all our banking systems intact, especially the Bank of International Settlement in Basel, Switzerland. You can hold tribunals in Nuremberg so your own people back in America won't suspect we are now partners. But you have to only give us slaps on the wrists. Do we have a deal? Actually, true Nazis made this offer to the United States and to Russia both. The Russians said, hell no. You jerks are criminals, and every last one of you are going to hang. The Americans said, it looks like you're our new partners. Let's shake on it. At this point, the Nazis all moved to Argentina, Peru, and Colombia, where the Nazi megabanks that had just turned into world megabanks then helped them set back up in business. The Nazis had been developing combat drugs to help their fighters. So I don't see the time clock going here. Is it recording? Oh yeah, it is, sorry. So they slightly modified them into party drugs like cocaine and meth. They had invented the drug lord. And with the help of their Nazi friends in the CIA, they flooded America with their product. This did two things. First, it created billions in revenue for the Nazi Party members in South America and for their global network of banks that laundered the money through Nazi front companies like Hewlett-Packard, Arm & Hammer, Dow Chemical, and IBM. Second, it created the necessary excuse to create a new Nazi army right inside America. The war on drugs. The Nazi in Langley got right on it. This was an old trick for them. They loved to make a problem themselves, then use it to advocate their agenda. They set the German parliament on fire and blamed it on Poland just so they could have an excuse to invade it. Now, they were creating a drug pandemic just so they could have an excuse for buildup of Gestapo-style secret police. It was so easy. And they weren't even busting drug dealers. They were busting drug dealers who competed against the Nazi-fed drug dealers. It was so blatant that it's laughable. At one point, the FBI's official strategy was this: we're going to get one South American cartel Nazi to sell drugs to all the people in America for so cheap that it will put all the other drug dealers out of business. Then after 20 years, we will stop and have a drug-free America. If that's not a mealy-mouthed lawyer way of saying to Congress, yeah, we are the ones dealing all the drugs, I don't know what is. But Congress bought it, or at least the obscure committee who actually listened to this BS bought it. So the Nazis thrived. Little by little, Nazis took over all the federal government with the help of their global megabanks, of course. Eventually, they even got a Nazi to be President George H.W. Bush. The whole Bush family are really actually Nazis. Papa Bush was the director of the CIA. He rekindled old alliances with old Nazi allies like the Sunni Arabs, and he started up the war-for-profit industrial complex in the true Nazi style. But it was his son, Bush Jr., who was to preside over the final coup d'etat. The plan was to overthrow the federal government entirely and replace it with a 100% Nazi-run agency that would act as an occupying force to control everything that was left. The new and feeble partners that were forgiven and brought in at the end of World War II were about to take over the whole business. The Patriot Act was written. A domestic Gestapo-style spy grid was set up. Plans to invade Afghanistan and set up poppy farms to grow and sell heroin were laid. Plans to send Americans' mighty military into a never-ending boondoggle in the sandbox were set in place. PSYOP units were set to demoralize and subjugate the American civilians using ritualistic submission such as TSA grab-ass stations at airports and papers, please, checkpoints around the country. Propagandists were put in charge of the centralized news media, and emergency legislation was written up ahead of time. They just needed a distraction so they could make their move. Working with the Saudi royal family, who are hardcore Nazi loyalists, and always have been, they cooked up 9/11. I personally know the people involved in this plot and have heard all the details from their own mouths. All the events of 9/11 were planned and carried out by the CIA. It was the same Nazis using the same trick. They did when they burned their own parliament building, and it worked perfectly just like it did every other time they used it. They were so proud of their little Nazi selves and how easily duped the American people were, that they audaciously named their coup government the Department of Homeland Security. A blatant salute to the Third Reich and a well-known Nazi catchphrase. That's how America's government got overthrown by Nazis. And now the Nazi old faithful foe, Russia, is rolling up her sleeves to finish the job she was prevented from finishing long ago. She's sick of these Amero-Nazis running around vandalizing humanity. Ukraine is a perfect example. The U.S. State Department and George Soros went in and hired actual swastika-wearing, Hitler-sealing, goose-stepping Nazis to overthrow the Ukrainian government with bloody shootout riots. All because Ukraine signed a free trade agreement with Russia, something they are free to do. The same thing is happening in Syria right now too. ISIS is just the Saudis backed by the Amero-Nazis at the CIA. And the entire police court prison machine in America is just the revised Gestapo, revived, doing what they do best, pillage and bully for profit. Do not think that if you comply, they will leave you alone. These Nazi predators, not governors, they will eat you alive. Not because you misbehaved, but because they are hungry, and you're an easy meal. They're getting rid of people like me so they can have their way with people like you. If you're not fighting for your life, you're just waiting your turn to die. Referring to gassing prisoners to death. I don't know if this will happen or not, but I do know that there are plenty of federal employees who are ready and willing to carry out such an order. I know because I've met them and been told to my face that if the order comes down, they will do it. I can't say names and still get this letter to go out, but it was said with great pride, as if their willingness to murder for the feds was a sign of their dedication. What a virtue dedication is, especially when it's a mindless bureaucrat dedicated to the satanic government. I just wish more people were willing to see what's taking place in this country. It's not that they can't see it. It's plain as day. It's that they don't want it to be true. So they look away. This is why the blood that feds spill is on the hands of every chump who didn't know what was happening. In this prison I am at now, there is a factory that builds electrical cables for military and government vehicles. It's called Unicor USP Marion. It's the same model as IG Farben Auschwitz. And it's going to end the same way because it's the same Nazis doing all they know how to do. Exploit captive labor to supply the elite's opulent lifestyle and fund their violent conquests. The most important thing to learn from history is that people don't learn from history. I could go even deeper and try to explain how the Lucifer-worshipping global megabanks are financing both sides of nearly every world conflict, and how the banisters at the top are not in it for the money. They already have achieved literally endless money now that they alone control the creation of credit. See, they don't need money. They've moved beyond that state of existence. Their only fear is humanity reaching a breakout stage in our understanding that would cause us to realize that the banisters and their puppet governments are a useless cancer on the human race. If the modern man ever realizes this, the banisters and their thug states will disappear like a god at sunrise. There will be a renaissance for humanity. And as the Bannisters know all too well, there is no place for them in a Renaissance. That's from Francis Schaeffer Cox from Marion, Illinois, May 24th, 2016.